Welcome to the fifth day of Oracle Hcm Cloud and Taleo Recruitment Implementation Solution Workshop. My name is Dinesh Chabra and I'm a lead Hcm Solution Architect at Jupitech Australia. Last few days we had discussed the implementation considerations, features, benefits, out-of-the-box functionality, and analytics available within Hcm Cloud and Taleo Recruitment Solution. In today's session, we'll be discussing the standard out-of-the-box integration solution which is available between Oracle Fusion Hcm and Taleo Recruitment. This topic is actually very popular among the Oracle customers who are using Oracle Hcm Cloud and now boarding their journey with Taleo Recruitment implementation. You'll find this session useful. So let's get started. So what is this out-of-the-box integration we are referring to and why it is needed by the customers? So the out-of-the-box integration solution presents both Fusion and Taleo customers a unique opportunity to leverage the Fusion Hcm system of record with Taleo recruiting application. The solution provides a typical recruiting integration model that allows customers to create and manage job requisitions in Taleo using foundation data such as organization, location, job fields, departments, legal employers, business units defined within the Fusion system. The candidates who are selected and hired in Taleo are then imported into Fusion. Subsequent tasks like creating workers are then completed in Fusion, as we have seen the pending worker workflow in the first day session, if you recall. Before we further proceed into the session and discuss the technicalities involved, including the integration mapping for foundation data required for this integrated solution, I would like to highlight that the solution we'll be discussing today is applicable only to existing Fusion HR customers who are performing a new Taleo recruiting implementation and who will be using only Taleo for all their recruiting activities. In other words, this out-of-the-box integration solution is currently available only to new Taleo customers who have yet to begin their implementation of Taleo recruiting, subject to meeting the Fusion and Taleo prerequisites. I would recommend you to refer to Oracle white papers available on this solution integration, which you can find them on Moz. And also suggest you to contact your client executive and or Oracle account manager for additional information on qualification next steps. If this delivered out-of-the-box integration solution does not meet your requirements or customer needs, for example, the new hire export from Taleo back into Fusion, it is possible to implement a tailored integration or custom integration using change work order. This generally goes to the customer at additional cost. For the purpose of the setup demonstrations which we'll be delivering in today's session, we'll be using Oracle Fusion Hcm Cloud Release 11 and Taleo Enterprise version 15. As a first step to enable the solution integration, customer must log a service request to Oracle support providing the details of Fusion Hcm and Taleo recruiting environments which they want to have connected or integrated. There is actually a specific template to be followed for this service request, and again you can find the details on the mentioned template at My Oracle Support. For the purpose of this workshop, we will be covering the key implementation tasks to enable the out-of-the-box integration solution. You must refer to the latest version of Fusion Hcm Taleo Recruiting Integration Guide for complete list of steps needed. The integration guide also provides the details of the Fusion Taleo release pairings, which you must follow and complete set of steps accordingly. As mentioned before, for the purpose of this session demonstration, we will be focusing on integration steps related with the latest release pairing, that is Fusion Hcm Cloud Release 11 and Taleo 15A or 15B. Before we dig deep into the key implementation steps required to be completed to enable the out-of-the-box solution, I would like to summarize few points from our previous Taleo workshops. If you recall from our session on day 3 of Taleo workshop, we discussed Taleo defines a data structure of each company as a combination of 3 main elements, which are organization, location, job fields. They're also referred as OLF structure. So OLF represents the fundamental data structure by which information is organized within the Taleo application. Using OLF, each company is able to personalize the Taleo system to reflect how it does business pretty much. With deployment of standard integration solution between Fusion and Taleo, the Fusion becomes a system of record for foundation data, and Taleo will need to be provisioned with the same foundation data found in Fusion systems. So the organization, location, job fields, and requisition templates, which will be created in Taleo, will be based on the Fusion data. The synchronization of Fusion data with Taleo is a mandatory step, and customers should not directly modify this data in Taleo. All form of data modifications should be done in Fusion Hcm only. We'll now look into each of the below key integration steps. First one is completing the required Taleo setup and Fusion Hcm for the out-of-the-box integration. The second key step is loading the initial foundation data from Fusion Hcm into Taleo. Configuration of the data synchronization between Fusion and Taleo. We need to put together requisition synchronization process, and there are some other tasks which must be completed to ensure complete integration. Look one by one into these. So let's get started with the first one, configuring the Taleo zone. The Taleo zone must conform to a specific configuration to use the out-of-the-box integration. This mainly involves the following steps: configuration of the foundation data in a specific manner, that is organization, location, and job field structures. Creating user-defined fields and user-defined selections for position, grade, and legal employer fields to match with Fusion core data fields, because these fields do not actually exist in Taleo, so we need to create a user-defined fields. We need to create exportable statuses, complete setting of the security policies, and of course the default user group setup has to be completed, user types and requisition types as well. We will now look into the first one, which is the organization structures. Pretty much Fusion business units will be synced into Taleo as organizations. Fusion departments are not reflected in Taleo organization structure. This is very important. So Fusion business units will be actually mapped to into Taleo as organizations. Also, the organization structure in Taleo should be a single level to match it with the business unit hierarchy in Fusion for this integration. Therefore, it is highly recommended to maintain a flat list of Fusion business units to have them replicated in Taleo. Fusion will use business units internal ID as their key identifier to map to the Taleo organization structure. We'll do a quick demonstration on organization structure setup. I would also like to highlight, before setting up organization structure in Taleo, the customer must configure the default industry setting in Taleo, because that's a prerequisite before you set up the organization structure setup. We will look into both. We are now logged in into Taleo recruitment section. We'll go to the settings page first to do the default reference industry setup. So this is where we define the default reference industry. We'll now quickly look at the organization structure setup, where we need to define level 1 as equal to business unit, if you recall. So we'll go to administration section within Smart Org, click on organization structure management, and at the moment, if you recall from our day 3 setup, we had actually defined this organization structure. What we need to do is we need to now update, because if we are using an out-of-the-box integration between Fusion and Taleo, we need only level 1, and that has to be defined as business unit. All other levels must be deleted. So just to quickly show you what I'm referring to, we have already seen this on day 3 of the system demonstration. So you need to delete these 3 levels here, and you need to just leave business unit as active and displayed, and click save later. So that was organization structure setup in Taleo. Just to summarize, so Fusion business units are actually mapped with Taleo organizations. We'll go to the next topic now, which is setting up the location structure in Taleo. The Taleo zone must be configured with a specific setup again for the location structure in order to generate the location hierarchy out of the Fusion applications. It must have 4 levels. The first level is country, the second level can be state or province, or level 3 is city, and level 4, which is a work location. So the work location option must be selected to confirm that the 4th level is actually work location level. When importing geography data into Taleo, the location hierarchy is based on the street addresses of work locations stored in Fusion. So you should update work locations in Fusion prior to initial Taleo load. So we're now back in Taleo recruitment configuration. So we need to go to the configuration, go within SmartOrg, click administration, and then within locations we update the structure management. On day 3 of our session, if you recall, we had done this initial location structure setup in Taleo. At that time we're not even looking into the integration aspect of the Fusion. That was an independent Taleo implementation we're looking at, but now we're talking about integration. So if you want to use out-of-the-box integration solution, then the location structure must be defined in a specific manner, as per my previous slide which I've shown you before. So the first one is country, the second level should be state or province, and the third level should be city, and the 4th level should be work location. We have got 5 levels here, but don't bother, this is pretty much the setup. So we want level 1 is country, second level is state or province, the third level is city, and the 4th level is work location. So make sure this is work location is actually displayed and it is actually selected as work location. So that was on the location structure. We'll now look into the next slide, which is a job field structure in Taleo. So the job field is one of the 3 fundamental hierarchical data structures around which the system is organized. That's Taleo. Fusion does not maintain a hierarchical structure of job families. Hence, the Taleo job field structure will be flat. Only one job field level is necessary. So Fusion job families are actually mapped to Taleo, this job field. So level 1 should be defined as job family. So we'll quickly look into the system environment to finish this off. So back to SmartOrg administration, to click on the job structure. So job fields, job structure management, and this should be level 1 should be defined as basically job family here. So this should be defined as job family. Okay, I'll cancel this for now, and it should be displayed. All the other 2 levels should be deleted. We will now move into our next slide. So in addition to setting up the job structure mapping, we need to also create a user-defined field to capture Fusion job name in the requisition template, because that's not available at the moment in Taleo, and we need to create a user-defined field for that. So we've already seen in the past how to create user-defined fields in Taleo, but I'll quickly demonstrate that. So you need to go into the configuration section, and then within recruiting you need to go into the administration. It's running pretty slow. So within the administration you go into fields, and then we need to create a field here within the requisition. And then you create a user-defined field. The type should be text, and in the name field, you need to type in Fusion _job IT, and the label should be Fusion job ID. This is important. Maximum number of characters 255 with 255, number of lines 1, and you click save, and then a number of other languages defined, so we need to pretty much create for every language, which we have seen before on day 3. I'm not going to do that, but I'll quickly cancel this. I'll show you the other steps. Hi there, we will now move on to our next slide, which is configuring positions. Position use is generally common with public sector, but some private organizations use positions for the approval hierarchy in Fusion. Both Taleo and Fusion have the concept of the positions. However, Taleo has a limitation to fill an open job for a requisition. While the requisition can be open to fill multiple positions, it provides the ability to capture only one position. The solution has been retained, which is like a workaround, allowing the ability to hire multiple candidates to the same job opening. Fusion positions will be stored in Taleo in the form of large user-defined selections, and then each offer will be associated with one position element of the position selection. In other words, Fusion positions refer to Taleo large user-defined selection of position elements. So the position will be stored in the offer, as part of the offer being made to the candidate. So there are basically 3 parts to configuring positions in Taleo. So the first one is creating the position large user-defined selection. The second one is creating the position user-defined field as part of the offer link, as we have seen it before. And the third step really is to disable the default Taleo position field in the system. I think we've already seen how to create the large user-defined selection objects and also the user-defined field position. So I'll only show you how to disable the position field in the system. Right. So let's move on. So we'll go to Taleo recruiting administration. Click on within the fields, click on the requisition, because we need to disable the position field from the requisition section. It might be at the bottom. So click on the position, make sure that the edit field availability, make sure these two are not actually selected, so there is no option selected in here. So that's how we disable the position. We will now look into the next slide. So grades. The grade, again, within Taleo there is no grade concept really that way. So there is no standard field available. In Fusion, grades show the relative status of employees within an enterprise and are often used as a basis for eligibility to compensation and benefits. As I said, Taleo does not have any entity that can be directly mapped to Fusion grades. So this information will be captured in Taleo using a large user-defined selection, as very similar to the positions. And we need to create a user-defined field as well as part of the requisition, very similar to the setup we have seen for position. And you need to do it for the grades as well. Moving on to the next one. In Fusion, a legal employer is a legal entity that is responsible for employing people in a particular country or location. So this information is required in Fusion to create an employee record. Taleo again does not have any entity that can be directly mapped to Fusion legal employer. So this information will be captured in Taleo using large user-defined selection, very similar again to the position setup. and we need to configure that. I'm not going to do a demonstration on this one as well. It's very similar to your position in grades and creating user-defined fields. You already know how to set up the user-defined selection and user-defined fields in various areas of the system. Please refer to the workshop on day 3 if you have any questions. Come back to me. Departments. So in Fusion, a department is a division or an operational group in which employees work and is defined as an internal organization. A Fusion department is directly mapped to a Taleo department, so that there's a field within Taleo. This information is required to create an employee record in Fusion. Now, in order to enable the Fusion Hcm Taleo out-of-the-box integration, we will also need to disable the default link requisition organization to department organization setting. Now, this is one of the settings which is protected, so you need to contact Oracle support to have that setting disabled. Before I move further into the loads, I'd like to give a concept on a requisition template. A requisition template is a requisition file containing information that will be likely be reused for a similar job position and may be created for each position or job category. So depending on your organization policies, the requisition template may be very detailed or may include only basic information. Now, Fusion jobs are actually imported into Taleo as requisition templates. Now, this is very important. Recruiters using Taleo are expected to create requisitions using requisition templates to make use of the Fusion delivered job codes. They should not modify the organization or location information in the requisition from what has been defaulted within the requisition template. So that's very important. So we move on to the next slide, which is exportable statuses. So exportable status features, which is the feature which is available in Taleo, is used to determine which candidate submissions are considered ready to be exported before being exported into Fusion, and these must be configured within Taleo based on the customer requirement. So this is pretty much you need to discuss with your customer, and you accordingly need to configure what statuses will be used for that purpose. So the list of fields which are sent from Taleo to Fusion for a new hire are actually fixed. So if you need to send any other candidate information from Taleo to Fusion, such as Taleo user-defined fields, you will need to use other integration techniques, for the purpose. Now, when importing a new candidate from Taleo, the candidate employee number field in Taleo must be empty. So because when Fusion receives the candidate employee number field with a value, the conversion of the candidate to a pending worker cannot be done because Fusion considers the candidate as being an employee. So this is the list of fields. I've actually given only the majority of the standard fields available, which are actually exported from Taleo to Fusion for the data export when new hire information comes into Fusion. In addition, there are a good number of standard profiles are transferred as well, but you have that available in the latest version of Oracle release documentation, so you can refer to that. I would like to mention here that majority of the fields we need on any implementation are actually available as part of integration, and which works very well. But again, depending on your specific requirements, you may want to go for a custom integration. Specifically, there are fields not available as part of the standard integration. Then you need to consider your other custom options there. Setting up the security policies in the system. So you'll need to define security policies as per your customer requirements. If Fusion is using single sign-on to let users access Taleo, the password assigned to employee users will be meaningless because Fusion will be authenticating these users. Setting up the user types in Taleo. For the Fusion Taleo integration solution, Fusion employees have to be associated with Taleo user types. So you got to make sure that below mentioned default user types are made available in Taleo and they're active. So recruiting administrator, recruiting power recruiter, basic recruiter, power manager, and employee. These user types must be made available and they should be active. Default user group. The default user group setting is used to indicate which user group the new users will be automatically assigned to. Now, the default user group is automatically assigned only when no user group was manually assigned during the user account creation process. So you may want to use that feature as part of the integration. It's not mandatory, but it's totally up to you. Um, the next one is activating the requisition types. So Fusion creates requisition templates having a universal requisition type. So once this requisition type is actually made active in Taleo, the universal requisition type will be then available to recruiting and to the recruiting center users when they are creating a requisition. Okay, so the next section is configuring selected candidate notification in Fusion. So by default, when a new hire is imported into Fusion, the hiring manager receives a notification. So the manager then processes the new hire by creating a pending worker in Fusion. Now, depending on your customer needs, they may require the notification to go to another person as well in the business, as well as in addition to the hiring manager. So this is not a mandatory step and must be only configured depending on the business needs. And again, you can refer to our day 3 session how to do that. Exporting network data into using Taleo Connect client and import network data into Fusion. So what is this network data? So Taleo Recruiting uses network data to allow the creation of requisitions and candidate submissions. To make this possible for the Fusion Taleo integration solution, network data must be activated. Now, customers will need to determine which items of the network data they want to activate. So available network data are certifications, employers, institutions, programs, they can use. So that's something you must consider as part of the integration. Okay, so the initial data load from Fusion to Taleo. So after your implementation team confirms the system is ready for integration and you've finished configuring the Taleo zone, you must perform the initial data load. Now what that includes is exporting all work structures, employees, contingent workers, and users from your Fusion, which is Global Human Resources, to Taleo Recruiting. Now, prior to performing the initial data load, you may want to review the topology to validate the configuration. This will allow you to see the Taleo recruiting endpoint URL as well. So what the name of the process in Fusion HCM, which is used to do the initial data load from Fusion to Taleo, is actually called export all Oracle Taleo recruiting cloud services data. Now you must run this process only once for each data object. That is the business units, departments, employees, grades, job families, legal employers, locations, positions, jobs, users, and you got to make sure that the data has been received in Taleo. So we will quickly look into this process in Oracle HCM Fusion. I'm logged into Fusion now, and what with the navigation path is you need to go to the scheduled processes, schedule new process. You need to search for the process. And you need to run this process for all these objects in the order mentioned. Submit, then close. So configuration of the data synchronization between Fusion and Taleo. So what is the purpose? So export the work structure and employee data in Taleo during the initial setup. We've already seen that. That was the previous slide. So export the ongoing work structure and work data changes from Fusion to Taleo, and import the ongoing candidate and requisition data from Taleo to Fusion. The process name is export changed Oracle Taleo recruiting cloud service data. That's the one which is used to transfer incremental data changes from Fusion to Taleo, and the process which is used to import candidates which are ready to be hired, and the requisitions from Taleo to Fusion HCM. The name of the process is import Oracle Taleo recruiting cloud service data. So we'll quickly look into these processes as well. Same step, you need to go to the schedule new process page and search for the processes. So this one is export change Oracle Taleo recruiting cloud services process, and you have the same options. So this one is for the incremental changes which you need to, this process must be scheduled overnight or depending on your customer needs. And you select and submit. We'll look into the other one as well, which is to import Oracle Taleo recruiting cloud service data. So this one has got to import either the new hire information or the requisition data, if you recall. So you can import either the candidate information or the new hires or the requisitions itself, so on an ongoing basis. So you can see there are the options, the parameters for this one are your new hire data or requisition data. You can select and schedule as per your customer requirements and then submit. The next is the requisition synchronization process. As part of the Fusion Hcm Taleo recruiting integration solution, a synchronization of requisition is performed using the system processes. Uh, so what that means is requisitions created in Taleo recruiting, when they're actually created, when the data is actually created in Taleo, that is as part of when you run the processes, which shown on mentioned on the previous slide. So they are actually exported from Taleo and imported into Fusion HCM. So they are actually how the requisitions are displayed is actually the vacancies. You know what you see in your organization's chart. So vacancies are displayed in the organization chart in your Fusion as a new role vacancy under the hiring manager defined in the requisition. Now, when this requisition status changes in Taleo, for example, if it's filled, deleted, cancelled, or rejected, the vacancy disappears from the Fusion organization chart. So that is your ongoing synchronization, requisition synchronization, which happens with that as well, the process mentioned in the previous slide. So with this out-of-the-box integration, I think I've pretty much covered the key steps. Now there are some miscellaneous steps which you can refer to in the Oracle integration guide for these steps. So mapping of third-party plans. This is mainly mapping with your composition plans. The other tasks which are related to, which we've already seen in a way from the process point of view on day 3, so recruiting related tasks in Taleo. So how to create and approve requisitions in Taleo, create and hire new candidates in Taleo. There's more standard process, but you can always refer to the integration guide and also to the user guide for this purpose. Before I finish on this one, I would like to mention again the out-of-the-box solution which we discussed in this session is available only to new Taleo customers who have yet to begin their implementation of Taleo recruiting, subject to meeting the Fusion and Taleo prerequisites. So you need to look into release pairing as part of this latest documentation. Like I said, the one which we discussed today was for release 11 on Fusion HCM Cloud, and on the Taleo side it was 15A. The solution is under controlled availability for customers who are already live with Taleo recruiting. So you may use the solution, but again you need to check if you're already live with the Taleo. But if you're interested in exploring options to migrate your existing custom integration and undergoing any change management associated with the meeting the prerequisites first, you may want to contact your client executive or Oracle account manager for additional information on meeting the prerequisites, or your whether you can actually use this solution, the standard solution. So in the even as I mentioned before, if the discussed built-in Fusion HCM Taleo recruiting integration does not meet the customer needs, mainly the new hire export from Taleo is a field which I've shown in one of the slides. If they don't meet your requirement, if they're not meeting your customer requirement, then it is possible to implement a tailored integration approach also. So with this, I will finish on this workshop, and if you have any questions, you can always email it to me, on this email address. My mobile is there as well. So please feel free to call me or email me, and I'll try to come back to you as soon as possible. Thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you. Bye.